Hi, everybody. This is Rebecca Olkowski with babyboomster.com. And today I am interviewing Alicia Jones, who is a certified fitness trainer with a BA in kinesiology. And she is transforming the health and lives of women over 50 through fitness and through weight loss. So that's pretty exciting. And the topic today is blame your hormones, how menopause is packing on the pounds, and what to do to win the battle of your bulge, which I can definitely relate to.
I think everyone can, especially when it comes to hormones and hormone shifts, because there's a definite shift. I think we can all agree that it comes from the hips and goes into the stomach a little bit more. And many people ask me, that's the number one question I get asked is, how can I flatten the tummy, or am I going to have the bulge forever, or what's going to happen? So I'm so glad we're talking about this today.
Well, I can certainly relate to the bulge in the tummy because I'm definitely an apple shape, and I didn't used to be. So that happened since I was about 50 years old. I think it started growing and growing, and people would ask me if I was pregnant, and I said no. I can't use that excuse anymore. I have too many wrinkles.
Oh
no. So tell me a little bit about your journey to become a fitness and weight loss coach.
Yeah, so it all started with my own journey. I was a teenager, and in 1 year, I went from an average size for my height. I'm 5'6.5", and I was at the time I was about 115 pounds, and I ballooned up 50 pounds in a year.
Wow.
And yeah, so there was some hormone shifts going on, and just the fact that I wasn't eating well and I didn't know much about nutrition. So for me, even getting started in weight loss and fitness, it was like many people who start with the punishment. So it was me, it was like, I just need to lose the weight and go on 500 calorie diets and the watermelon diet and all of the horrible no pain, no gain fitness plans. And so it felt horrible. And then of course I could not sustain it. So I'd give it all up. And the whole cycle would start again. And it took me a lot of years to find coaches and individuals that were like, you don't have to do this to yourself. You can eat food and you can enjoy fitness. And so when I found those coaches, I fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it so much that I wanted to teach other people how to do that too, that it didn't have to be this torturous punishment. It could be something that was actually non-restrictive and life-changing. And so that's how I got into it.
I love that. I hate anything that's deprives you of things, or you have to count calories, or, that type of thing. It's no fun. And it usually ends up not working.
Exactly. Or it works for a while. And then you feel like, oh, I've made these goals, but you can't sustain it long term, or it doesn't fit your life. And I think it's so important that whatever you do, it fits you and it fits your lifestyle.
So what made you decide to focus on fitness and weight loss for women over 50 in particular?
So it was twofold. As I was getting into fitness in general and starting to coach people, my mother was getting older, and she became around the same age that my grandmother was when her health started to decline. So growing up, my grandmother was the main caregiver for me because my mother's working, and it was a single mother family household. And my grandmother and I were very close, but she grew up in the age that smoking was considered to be normal. It was not unhealthy. In fact, she was a nurse, and she was smoking, and she would smoke for a lot of years, and she had emphysema and heart disease. And so her health declined very quickly. And I remember that growing up, it affected me a lot as a grandchild, seeing my grandmother and her health declining. But at the same point, as I was getting older and getting into fitness, my mother started to reach the same age my grandmother was when I remember her health declining. And she was the complete opposite. Like, she never smoked. She never really drank. She did her fitness classes 3 times a week, and she was really healthy. And so we would go on trips together, and she'd be climbing up thousands of stairs in Italy, or, she would have this energy and strength and vitality as she was getting older. And I started to see that difference, and I was comparing. I was like, really, when you take care of yourself, you have so much power over your health and your energy and your strength and how you age. And I became so passionate about that. I wanted to teach also women in the over 50 category who hadn't found their forever plan yet and who really wanted to feel that energy and strength with age.
I can relate to that. My philosophy is The more you move, the longer you can move. And I think it's just so important, to be able to do that. That's great. I'm glad your mom's doing that. I try to do that too. I'm always out walking every day, and my roommates and I work out in front of a YouTube channel every day. So we try to keep moving.
Yeah. I love your saying. I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah, no, well, I heard it from somebody else, but I think it's a brilliant saying, and it's so true.
My saying is, if you don't move it, you lose it. So now we have two sayings.
Right. So what do you think in terms of weight loss and wellness and stuff? What kind of fitness for women over 50 how is it different, than the type of fitness that you would do for a younger woman?
Well, first, I don't believe that there's an age restriction on exercise at all or what you can do, but you're dealing with a different formula over 50, specifically because hormones are shifting. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're trying to do the same weight loss or workout plan you did in your 20s and your 30s and it's not working, then usually it's because there's some sort of hormone shift that's taking place. And the most important thing that you can do is to work with the body you have at this moment. So work with your hormone levels and how you are feeling at this moment, especially if you're going through perimenopause or menopause. And that's a lot different when you were in your 20s. In your 20s, you did whatever you could and you'd run or jump or you do as hard as you possibly could. And it would probably work. But if you're dealing, for example, with high cortisol or high stress levels, which tends to be one of the hormone imbalances that happens for women over 50, the cortisol levels elevate. And part of the reason is because when your estrogen levels starting to drop, your adrenals, which is where your cortisol levels are, your adrenals start to try and help make estrogen a little bit. So your system's already taxed. And then on top of it, you've got higher elevated cortisol levels. You might be dealing with a more stressful, busy life. It is, maybe before retirement, if you're not retired yet, you're dealing with a more stressful, busier life. And so if your cortisol levels are off already, and then you're doing high stress, long, intense workouts, you're increasing or dysregulating your cortisol levels even more, which means you're going to hold more fat because cortisol does that. It holds more fat, especially around the waist. You're more prone to insulin resistance. So you're creating out of whack insulin. And as well, you're going to have more hormone fluctuations when it comes to your estrogen levels because they also fluctuate when it comes to your stress levels. So you've got to make sure that you're doing a workout that balances out the hormones where they are right now. And that's the big difference between someone in their 20s and someone that is going through more hormone changes in the 50 plus range.
Yeah, I definitely have the cortisol tummy. I mean, it's just, most of my audience is more post-menopause, but it's definitely there. And, as you get older, just stuff happens in your life. So you do experience more stress in a lot of ways.
And it's not just stress. So let's talk about postmenopause. Postmenopause, you have low estrogen levels. I mean, we all know this, right? The estrogen levels drop. It shifts that weight from your hips to your stomach, but it also has other factors that take effect. In your 20s, you might not have worried as much about bone density. And postmenopause, now with these lower estrogen levels, you're much more worried about your bone density. You want to ensure that you are holding the level of bone density that you have. And in fact, there are some studies that have started to come out that show that there are very small increases in bone density you can have by doing weight-bearing exercises. That is a huge difference in your 20s. Even though you should be worrying about that in your 20s and starting to store up a bank of bone density, you tend to worry about it more in your 50 plus and in postmenopause when that is starting to show because of the low estrogen levels. So the formula again is still shifting, and some of it is based on your hormone levels for sure.
Right. Yeah, I know that the bone density thing is a big thing. I actually took a tour of the Amgen labs, and they were talking all about osteoporosis and gave us a lot of great tips and everything about that. Are there specific exercises you recommend for that?
So for bone density specifically, or for postmenopause versus?
Well, I think in terms of the strength training, maybe just, are there like one or two exercises that you think that women should definitely do?
So when you're doing weight training, one of the best things you can do is compound exercises, especially if you're trying to enhance bone density. Compound exercises means that you're moving multiple joints. So for example, let's say I don't think you could even see me from here, but if you're doing a squat and then raising your arms overhead with a weight squat, and then like you're about to sit on a chair and then you stand, rise up, and you lift your arms over your head, you are working so much of your body, almost your entire body. And so that means that your muscles are gently pulling on your bone, and that's going to enhance bone density, or you're going to keep the level of bone density that you have. It's going to work towards that.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Are those on your YouTube videos that you're watching?
The person that we do watch does a little bit of everything, which is good, I think, because it's good to change things out. She also does a lot of balance, which I think is super important as you get older.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. About nutrition, there's so many types of diets that are out there, and people are, taking away this and they're taking away that. And pretty much, they're eating ice cubes. They end up. So what kind of nutrition recommendations do you have for women who are middle-aged and beyond?
So everybody is different. I need to say that first, because there is no one size fits all. So if you are following for whatever reason you've decided to follow a keto plan or a vegan plan or a high carb plan, and it is working for you, your doctor has said you're healthy, great. Personally, I'm just like you. I don't really like restriction. I think you need to have the freedom to live your life on your terms. And so I really believe that cutting out full food groups, they also wreak havoc on your hormones. You need a certain amount of complex carbohydrates to balance out thyroid, for example. So cutting out carbs altogether, I don't necessarily recommend over 50, but there is validity in needing protein levels. You do definitely need to increase your protein levels, or make sure that your protein levels are at a higher level than they were when you were younger. And that is because the rate that you're losing lean muscle increases. So everything that you do is about first making sure that you're keeping the lean muscle you have and enhancing lean muscle. That's going to help increase fat burn. So you burn more fat faster. It enhances your quality of life. You create more strength in your body. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that your protein levels are high enough so that you are able to create lean muscle, maintain the lean muscle that you have, and keep your quality of life. So protein is number one.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that. But do you have specific recommendations of your favorite protein sources?
So that really depends. Are you vegetarian?
I love the Mediterranean diet. I mean, it just tastes better. It's just, so it's a little bit of everything.
Definitely. And it's one of the heart healthiest. So if you're trying to have a healthy heart, then it is definitely the best. Fish is higher in protein levels. Your beans and legumes, if you're trying to get a high fiber source, which is also incredibly important over 50, you need to ensure that you're hitting 25 to 30 grams of fiber daily. And that tends to be quite a leap for people. And if you are trying to get more fiber, but you have not reached that number yet, don't do it overnight, because then you might be in the washroom a lot more than you were hoping for. Or you'll feel bloated. And that's kind of the opposite of what you're trying to do as well, right? You don't want to feel bloated and heavy. You want to feel healthier and lighter. So, enhance your fiber slowly, but beans are one of the best fiber and protein sources that you can have, as well as if you're doing Greek yogurt or Skyr yogurt is another type of yogurt, the Icelandic yogurt, that's incredibly high in protein. It's like 20 grams of protein per serving. So it's very, very high and very filling. You may have noticed as well, protein fills you up a lot quicker than other foods, right?
Well, I didn't know that about Icelandic. I was eating Greek yogurt. I love that. I actually eat it for dessert, with like a little fig jam or something in it, rather than eating something with sugar. I tend to avoid that. The other thing I also found was that as you get older, and I don't know that this happens to everybody, but we've always heard, you should have a big salad and all this stuff. I've actually found that raw vegetables are harder to digest than cooked vegetables as you get older. They tend to cause more flatulence, things like that. That's just the way that it affects me, but
yes, and that's because the microbiome shifts, and that's with hormones as well, that all of the gut bacteria in your stomach shift, your carb sensitivity also shifts as well. And so you'll notice that you might have sensitivities to food that you did not have before, and certain food, like I haven't been able to eat raw. Like I'm not a big salad person in general. I think that was from my days of dieting all the time. It was just like always salad that was pushed into my face all the time. And so it's kind of like, I'm not a big salad person.
I mean, I love eating it. It just doesn't like me as much, but like a minestrone soup or something, that's great. That's supposed to be the Sardinian key to longevity, is this their minestrone soup, which has everything. It has beans and, vegetables, and, it's good for you.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite soups.
Yeah, me too. I was making it like every day for a while, just in my slow cooker,
Now you're making me hungry.
I know. I'm always making myself hungry. So, this is a good question. How much time do you think women over 50, say, need to spend working out to be able to see results?
So it's always about quality over quantity. So it's not necessarily about a time. In fact, if you do too much, again, you might be taxing certain hormones. So I like to say 45 minutes or less. Keep it 45 minutes or less for your workout, and focus on the quality of your workout over the length of time or the quantity of your workout. If you start to get into 45 minutes or longer, what you're doing once again is, if cortisol, the stress hormone, is already feeling taxed and you've got a lot going on, then doing longer taxes your cortisol levels more. So you want to keep it to 45 minutes or less. You're going to make sure you enhance lean muscle, because while doing cardio and doing, your 45 minutes of exercise is great for your heart, the longer your cortisol levels are excreted, the more it actually breaks down lean muscle. So you want your lean muscle. That is one of the biggest factors for quality of life over 50. Right. So you've got to make sure to keep it 45 minutes or less.
Because I walk like an hour a day, but I find that it actually relaxes me. I do it more, not so much to do it like really hard, although I do go up and down hills and stuff, but I find that it reduces my stress just because it's relaxing.
Let me be specific then. So when we're talking about exercise, if you're doing cardio, as in you are out of breath like this, longer than 45 minutes, then that's going to tax your system.
Okay.
If you're doing a gentle walk, a long, slow distance, then go for it. Go for it as long as you want, as long as you're not taxing your system, as long as it feels enjoyable and doable and relaxing in your case. I'm guessing that your heart rate is not getting to incredibly high levels.
No. I mean, but I do try to change it up a little bit, because I actually live in a hilly area. So I do try to walk, straight up the hill, or, something like, but it's not like a straight up the hill. It's more like, that kind of thing.
So if you feel out of breath at the top of that hill, you're actually doing high intensity intervals, and that's completely different. So you're doing your long, slow distance, and then every once in a while, there's this burst of energy, this high heart rate, and then you bring that heart rate back down again. High intensity interval training has an incredible heart effect. It also has a fat burning effect. It's called EPOC. So there are a lot of great benefits to doing high intensity intervals, short bouts of these bursts of all out cardio. But for the most part, you're probably doing long, slow distances, and then you've got some HIIT or high intensities in there. So it's the best of both worlds without overtaxing your system.
Do you have any recommendations besides walking, which I think is a great thing to do, for cardio for people over, or especially women over 50? Are there any particular types of exercises you recommend? For cardio?
Depends on how much time you have, because again, weight training is one of the keys to be doing. If you do not have a lot of time, or you really don't want to, like I'm sure you don't want to spend all of your great time just working out.
Yeah.
Unless you're a fitness expert, right? You don't, well, even then, I don't want to spend every single waking part of my day working out. What you can do is you can incorporate a high intensity interval with your strength training. So once again, movements like we talked about, you squat and rise with your arms. You do that for 30 seconds to a minute. You take a minute off, and then you do that again. That creates these bursts of higher heart rate zones. You're getting in that HIIT zone. And then you're also doing your resistance training to enhance the lean muscle. And you've got 2 in 1.
Oh, this is great. This is great. I love it. Okay, what kind of exercises should women over 50 not do? Do you have any that you think that they should avoid?
I think that, again, is dependent on you and what is going on with you. So there are different health issues that might happen. Like if you have some form of arthritis and you're in a lot of pain in your knees or your back, you might not want to be jumping. Also, if you're having certain issues such as prolapse or pelvic floor issues, those issues tend to happen a lot more over 50 again, because there's lower estrogen levels. So the muscles in your pelvic floor, they start to relax a bit. And so if you're not working them out and you're doing things like jumping or pounding, you could be creating some issues. I think the key is always to know what's going on with you health-wise, to speak with your doctor and to listen to your own bodies. Because, I have clients that are in their 70s that are jumping and that are doing heavy weights and pull-ups. And then I have other clients that are in their 60s and 70s and 50s, even very late 40s, who are like, my knees are shot. This is what I did before. I've got osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. I am not going to be jumping. So you really have to listen to your own body and talk with your doctor about what your specific health concerns are before you start exercise, for sure.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky that way. I think that walking tends to get rid of the arthritis in my hips. I mean, I don't feel it anymore after really focusing on that. But I'm definitely staying away from jumping and things, because even though I don't really have major problems with my knees, I want to preserve them. So it's not like I'm going to go start jogging or anything like that. But I know people that are still running marathons. I mean, they can do it. I think that the moderation is always a good idea.
That's it. And it goes to show everyone is so different. Really. And the exact formula for what you should be doing is going to be very different for you than your friend or a loved one. It's always different.
Okay. I got to ask you this question, because I mean, it is really hard to lose weight, even when you're doing a lot of exercise and trying to eat right and everything like that. And I know that I'm kind of a foodie, but I've really been good about it. But what are 3 ways that women could speed up weight loss and just kind of get rid of that layer that just won't move?
Okay. So I think one of the most important things to remember is more cardio, more exercise is not going to necessarily speed things up for you. The best way for you to speed things up is weight training. And it's not going to be the scale that will probably show the shift when you're weight training, because as you're enhancing your lean muscle, you'll also be dropping fat. And so what ends up happening is, for many people, they say the scale isn't moving, but then they check their inches and the inches are way down. So you're losing fat with weight training. A lot of women I talk to, they end up going for their walks, which are excellent. They're excellent for your heart, for your psychological well-being, but then they decide that they're not going to do weights, or they don't really know where to start, or they take weights with them when they're going on their walks and it does nothing. It has to be something that actually elicits a change. So you have to be on your last repetition of something like a bicep curl, and you have to feel like, okay, I'm done with that now. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done lifting it. You have to actually create a stimuli on the muscle in order for it to change. So weight training is number 1, and focusing on weight training can speed things up just a little bit. Number 2, I mean, if really you're somebody that is only focused on the scale, which I don't necessarily agree with, inches are probably going to shift a lot quicker than the scale will, but just drop your sodium levels. We become more sodium sensitive, or many women become sodium sensitive with age. And so you can reduce the scale number just by dropping your sodium, because you're not retaining water. Like you can retain up to 4 pounds of water, and which is a big deal. So you would see a drop in the scale. You might feel a little bit less bloated if you were to make sure that your sodium levels are lower as well. So that's another one. And another one is to make sure that you're getting in enough protein. So it doesn't mean to cut out carbs. You do not want to cut out carbs. You just
No,
want to
I
make
like my
sure.
piece of bread, like, my sourdough or something like that.
Oh yeah, I love bread too.
When I was in Italy, I mean, I'll eat bread and they're thin. So I know it's a difference in flour and all that stuff, but still.
Oh yeah, and their tomatoes taste so good.
Oh my God.
What they are doing. I tried to make the same pasta sauce when I came home. We did a learn how to cook class in Italy, and it didn't turn out the same when we tried to do it back in Canada, like here.
Oh no. So that's another good question about the scale, because some fitness trainers will tell you, you should check the scale every day. What I did was I was wearing leggings a lot for a long, long time. And I just decided I'm going to give up wearing leggings or pants that have elastic. And I never wore jeans. I hated jeans, but now I'm wearing jeans. And just to see how tight they get instead of actually looking at the scale all the time. So how do you feel about that?
The scale is interesting. So I do use the scale in my programs, but when I am using the scale, I ask my clients not to weigh themselves more than once a month to get a general idea. And I think for a lot of people, it depends on the relationship you have with the scale. So I have people who we really needed to stop altogether with the scale because there was this relationship that it meant that they failed if they were eating really healthy, they were exercising, they had so much more energy and strength, and yet the number on the scale didn't move. And it didn't even matter if the inches were going down because, after years and years and years of hearing about how we have to lose weight and how the scale has to be a certain number, and it's so hard to get away from that. So in that instance, I think that you should not be weighing yourself. The scale is a tool. It's a science data tool. It is not the be all and end all. And so if you can't create that good relationship with it, you shouldn't be using it at all. And really inches, especially inches around the waist, are a better predictor of your quality of life. So just like you mentioned with your pants, that is a perfect way of doing it. Grab a pair of jeans. Jeans are not forgiving. I hate wearing jeans.
I know. I never liked them. Because I have kind of like a high waist and everything, and it just my stomach shows even more. And
now they have skinny jeans is like the big thing, and I hate skinny jeans. I don't want to wear jeans that are extra skinny.
Yeah,
I like the bell bottom days better. It felt so much better.
Yeah, I'm just staying away from elastic, which is hard because it's so comfy. But then the more you put in, you just don't feel it.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me how people can get in touch with you and, what you have to offer them.
Yeah, well, we have been talking a lot about nutrition. So I do have a free 2-part macro series for anyone who is interested that actually will tell you how much protein, fat, and carbohydrates you can start with. So for the 2-part series, it's aliciajoneshealthyliving.com/2-part macros. So you can go there if you'd like to get the free 2-part, or you could just go to my website and see what I have to offer at aliciajoneshealthyliving.com. That's it.
That sounds wonderful. Well, this was fabulous. I really enjoyed your insights on all of this. And, I think also a thing that I really truly believe in too is I think taking care of yourself is more for your wellness, your kind of overall well-being, more than actually just losing weight. I think especially when you get older, it's all about feeling good and staying healthy.
Yeah, it's always about health first and then weight loss second. There are stats that do show that with obesity and being overweight and obese, over 50, you are 6.8 times more likely to have symptoms of osteoarthritis, feel that pain there. You have more of a possibility of getting breast cancer and cardiovascular disease. So trying to maintain a healthy weight in a healthy way, I personally believe is very important for your health overall.
Well, thank you so much. I think my audience is really going to enjoy this.